welcome to Property Question Time. I'm Stephen Galpin, and this is the show where you can have your property-related questions answered by our team of property experts. And joining me today, again, is John Howard.
I'm not sure, can I just stop you there? I don't like the idea you said again, as if it's like a bit of punishment for you, Stephen, all the viewers.
You are a regular contributor.
Yes, I am, yes. And delighted to be here.
And in fact, in the nicest way, the oldest contributor we have.
I knew that was coming. Thank you very much.
Okay. John is a property developer, author, mentor, investor, owner of a chain of estate agents.
Yes.
And whatever else.
That's enough.
Okay. Joining John is Vincent Wong, entrepreneur, co-founder of Property Wealth Dragons Group PLC. Welcome to you, Vincent.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
Good to have you back. And we'll get straight on with the questioning. Vincent, I'm trying to balance the risk-reward equation in creating a buy-to-let portfolio. My instinct is to invest close to home for ease of management, and I live in London. However, when I see the lower purchase prices, particularly in the northeast of the country, along with the higher percentage returns versus investment, I really am torn. Any advice, please?
Yeah. Firstly, it's not about the price, it's about the value. If you're buying up north, yeah, you can buy cheaper houses, but what price are you paying for them? And of course, when you're buying property at a lower price, relatively speaking, the rental yield is higher than what you're likely to get from the capital city like London. And it's always good to have a good balance in your portfolio, but it depends on what you want to achieve. I mean, if you're just looking to buy one or two properties, then you might actually want to live close to them and manage them yourselves. And that's what most traditional landlords tend to do. But if you're looking to build a portfolio of properties, then you're going to have to rethink more sort of globally. You want to expand. If I say to you, you live in London, but there's a deal up in Scotland that will make you £1 million. I mean, are you going to do it or not?
Yes.
So yeah, exactly. So it's not really the location. Then you have to think about systemizing your property business, and maybe it's just outsourcing some of the work. For example, using management agents. And I know a lot of landlords want to save costs by not wanting to pay other people to do things. But once you price into your deals, you need to look at your portfolio growth rather than being penny wise but pound foolish. So that's my advice.
I think my view is, and I don't know whether you concur with this, Vincent, but I think we are in days of being ultra professional with whatever we do, because anything you do can be scrutinized on the internet or anywhere else. It's a small world these days. So in that respect, I'm a great fan of outsourcing. So I think it's a mistake not to have a good managing agent or a good advisor or a good accountant or whatever else. You're just asking for trouble, aren't you? And all those things that are outsourced can be costed in. And if you make the right calculations, it doesn't cost.
Yeah, it's like whether you want to run a business, running a small cafe, doing everything yourself, or you want to run a chain of cafes where you're going to be hiring the best people, the best managers to help you grow your business. So it depends on what you want. Really.
And I mean, don't forget again on buy-to-let in particular, if you're new to that business, I would always say to somebody, well, are you prepared to make and put into practice unpopular choices? You may be forced into an unpleasant business situation, perhaps with a rogue tenant or a delinquent tenant, whatever you want to call them. And if you're not prepared to do that, use professionals, because they will know how to approach it. They'll know how to get you out of that problem as well as get you in.
I think also, these management companies nowadays are very professional. There's such a responsibility legally and what they have to provide, insurance and all the rest of it, that actually to do it yourself these days is getting harder and harder, I think.
Well, more to
cover yourself risk-wise.
Definitely. And more to the point is, from a personal point of view, if I'm looking to grow my portfolio, do I actually want to spend my time doing $10 jobs like fixing the broken taps or
You're very international, aren't you? $10.
£10 jobs.
Very international.
Yeah.
Tell it's an international
Well,
businessman, can't you?
It's globalization.
Globalization.
I'm just saying.
Do you mean you don't use dollars in it?
No, I'm still pounds. We're still pounds. Yeah.
But you see what I mean, though.
Absolutely.
If
right.
you can actually focus on finding a better deal for your next property, then why would you want to waste time being close to your existing properties to fix the problems? Let someone else do it.
Well, we both know a lot of very successful large investors who've got very large residential portfolios. There's not one of them I know that manages their own.
Yeah.
And that says it all.
It's like a lot of things in life. If you use professionals, it's just going to smooth your life out tremendously, isn't it?
You definitely need to vet them properly, just like hiring anybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just coming back to the buying property in the northeast cheaper and seeing a higher percentage return. I suppose the attraction there, Vincent, is that if you're trying to get into the property market and build a portfolio, then the attraction of cheaper prices and much lower deposits in terms of cash.
To get you started.
I'm not talking about volume, but I'm talking about just the real cash value of things.
Yeah.
It's got to be tempting, hasn't it?
Well, it has, because it'll get you started. If you've never done it before, you'll build your landlord history for borrowing purposes.
Yes.
And it's not a bad thing.
It's just difficult though, isn't it? Because I mean, I got offered 10 terrace houses in the northeast the other day, 50,000 each, rent £350 a house. I went, wow, that's great. They've got to be worth. They've got to be worth £600 a house. I can then think they're worth 75, not 50.
Yeah.
Oh no, I was wrong. They're worth 50,000, and the rent is right at 350 quid. And of course, there's a lot of these places. There's no capital growth.
That's true.
That's the problem.
Well, again, John, you must have seen this many times in the past. It's a favourite developer trip up, isn't it? You know, you develop something in London, you do quite well with it, and then you suddenly start looking at Bristol or Leeds or somewhere
Bristol's
else.
lovely, by the way.
Well, yeah, but you know, they go shooting up there thinking do the same thing in London, and
really big time.
Yeah.
They come from London.
Yeah, and they forget it's all about sales rates.
Yeah.
You know, how long is it going to take me to sell this? And they just make the mistake.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think better off where you are, but I do think today with the internet, with the connectivity that we have in between our various businesses, I think it's a bit of an ancient thought.
And
really.
Stephen, I think it's about how much you're leaving in each deal that you're doing. I mean, if you're getting a really good deal up north or in London, and you can maybe do some work to it to push its value up and refinance and get your deposit back, then any return represents infinite return, because you've got none of your money in the deal.
Yeah.
So it's about the deal rather than the location.
Okay.
That's true. Very true.
That's very true. Yeah, that's good. Okay, John, your question.
Mm-hmm.
What planning reforms would the panel like to see introduced by potentially a new government in the coming year or so? In addition, do the experts think this could ease the current housing shortage? Some say it's developers hoarding land after they've been given permission. If so, perhaps it's the local authorities rather than the government who could address the problems.
Okay, well, I think the first thing that would make a lot of sense would be if planning permission was granted by the government, not the local authority, because the local authority have got an axe to grind, you know, one way or the other on so many things being local. They're biased about this, they're biased about that. Whereas if it was all done by central office, central government in some way, planning department, you know, you would get, and you could drive it through much, much quicker than it is now. So speed is one thing. You know, we're doing a small site in Hungerford. They took 4.5 months to register the application. It's just disgraceful.
But John,
so that's the first thing I'd say.
Hold on, let's just address that for a second. You say the government. I mean, actually, that could be quite a simple answer, because the government could simply give outline to a zoned area,
yes,
and then say to the local authority, you will have housing on that,
yes,
and you'll issue planning to anybody that's applied within X
It's got to be
months.
simpler.
Yeah.
It's got to be quicker. Brownfield sites, for instance, which are, where they've already been developed once. There's certainly they can make that. They've tried to make it easy to get planning, but it's still the local authority, you know, holding all the cards. They need to cut through all this silly red tape and make it much, much quicker. And I think that is that for me is the main message I would give.
Yeah, Do you think also it might be an idea to cut out of the equation? You know, we have this system, you go to a parish council, then you go to the local authority.
Archaic.
Yeah, do you think we ought to get rid of the parish council influence on planning?
Because for me, it's too many cooks in the kitchen, unnecessary, and you could just use the planning inspectorates that we have now. You could increase those. They're very experienced planning people, and they could make the decisions much quicker and in a much better way. And we have to do something to increase the density. I would also try and get people to move up north with tax breaks and so on, and developers tax breaks to move people out of the south, because the south is saturated, the north isn't. Move them up there by giving them tax breaks and so on, and try and level things. I know the levelling up is perhaps not working, but that's one way you could try and be a bit more dynamic with it and move things forward.
I was talking to somebody about levelling up the other day, and they said, yeah, it's working great in London. Anyway, that's all we've got time for in this half of the show, so join me again after the break when we'll be asking Vincent and John more of your questions. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of Property Question Time. I'm joined by Vincent Wong and John Howard. Welcome back, guys.
Thank you.
So, Vincent, investment by Asia Pacific residents has for a long time supported and sustained the development of London properties. Most agents are reporting a significant reduction in this investment profile. I'm guessing the housing crisis in China is a significant factor, along with other worldwide economic issues. Do the panel think that this area of the market will come back and with the strength it previously had?
Okay, when you say Asia Pacific, you mean Chinese, I guess.
Well, I do and I don't. I mean, I was one of the first people that sort of did this round trip of, you know, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, Hong Kong, China.
It's all Chinese.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
I'm actually surprised to hear that there had been a dip in the sales. Maybe it's affected by sentiment. I don't know, since Brexit or
what about
maybe
exchange
COVID.
Controls in China? Is that?
There's been quite a lot of issues with the housing developers in China.
Yeah.
The big one going bankrupt quite recently. But people in China actually don't invest in real estate in China, to be honest, because there's a huge oversupply. Oh. And the ones who've got money will want to put them overseas, particularly in Britain. Because they want their children to go to schools in Britain, they're getting the tier 1 visas.
But again, on that subject, I mean, I just don't understand the government. We're getting very difficult about university visas and things, aren't we now? You know, they're stopping dependents.
Proving where the money's come from.
Yeah, proving where the money's come from, etc. And, you know, I know in the block I live in, there's a lot of Chinese owners who've bought the flats so that, A, the kids can come and study in London. Yeah. They're not having to pay rent, and hopefully they make a bit of capital on the sale when the kids have finished.
Yes, and I think they'll definitely come back if they're not already doing so. And particularly, you probably hear about the British National Overseas Passport, the BNO passport, granted to the Hong Kong residents by Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
We're expecting over 300,000 people coming from Hong Kong, and they all love new build properties in London.
I'm very grateful because 2 of them bought houses to live in.
Yeah.
In Birmingham recently off me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm grateful to
them. A lot of my friends have actually come over from Hong Kong.
So what's the demographic of you've just recently, John, done a development in Ipswich.
Yeah.
Quite nice modern flats.
Thank you.
Looks very good, all the rest of it. But what's the demographic of your buyer there? Are they all bought for genuine homes, or are they investments?
Most of them were bought for genuine homes. A lot of people downsizing, older people who want to lock up and go and have a place abroad as well. There's a lot of that happening. A lot of, you know, Stephen will be pleased to hear this. The 70 is the new 50, or is it the other way around? You know what I'm saying? So if you're 70 years old, it's like you were when you were 50.
So I'm the new 30.
So you're the new 30, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the new 35. So Stephen's the new 55. But
I'm just 12.
12, yeah. So what I'm saying is people are much younger. They want to travel, they want to do things, and they don't want, you know, the garden and everything. So a lot of downsizers, a number of first-time buyers helped by the Help to Buy scheme. So thank you very much to the Conservative government for that. And a few divorcees. So a bit of a mixture. But certainly, foreign buyers, especially for some of these big developers where they go out and actually promote to these in the big cities and the big countries, China and everywhere else. It's a big part of their business, isn't it?
I mean, well, down the road here, I was involved in one of the buildings down here, and at the time, 70% of the buyers came from Asia Pacific areas.
And that would worry me slightly, because I mean, if that tap stops, what do you do?
Well, I think that's the purpose behind the question.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I mean, the economy of China is absolutely huge, and there's so much money there, and they're pouring foreign investments into other countries, and they go to Kuala Lumpur, Singapore, and the UK is always preferable because of the prestige of the kids going to schools here, and they love London properties, particularly new build. So if you're a developer, you want to promote your new launch project, just go to China, hold some seminars, and Chinese people will do business with you if you build the relationship first. So just need to understand the culture and how people, the buying patterns.
Well, I think that's going back to the early days of marketing, especially in Hong Kong and KL. You used to go over, and what you do is associate yourself with a firm of solicitors there, ask them to host a seminar, and of course the trust factor was there from day one. One, the trust factor of London, and two, the trust factor of the firm of lawyers.
Definitely, they love these exhibitions where people can actually see the projects, and they give them a free drink and some canapes.
Sign here. Sign here.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Hey, John, we've got another job.
Got another job. I'd love to do that.
Okay, lovely. John, to add to further rental stock, do the panel think local authorities should be allowed, and indeed encouraged with appropriate finance, to build council-owned homes rather than rely on housing associations who in some ways seem to have lost their direction and purpose?
Very interesting. So this Conservative government have allowed councils to buy property, which who would have thought that? Margaret Thatcher will be turning in her grave if she heard that, I'm sure. So from my own personal experience, we've done a scheme up in Fife, and we've sold all the units, all 28 of them, to Fife Council. They bought the whole lot because they've got a housing shortage. In Birmingham, I've done a similar thing in Birmingham, and I'm talking to a number of other local authorities on schemes we've got elsewhere. And some of these local authorities are able to get a 40% grant from the government. The government are doing so much to help with housing, much more than people realise, with Homes England, the government bank, Help to Buy, okay, that's stopped now, and supporting councils to buy residential houses, because they're so short of housing. They're actually buying houses to rent out to their tenants.
John, I'm interested, just almost going back to a point we had in one of the earlier questions. When you're buying and particularly selling these developments that you're doing all around the country, and all credit to you. I think you're very brave. I think you're very industrious. You find these projects, and that's no mean feat these days anyway. But when you say, for instance, you have a council buy, are you using a single agent that you have a relationship with who is operational nationally, or do you find you use the local agent? I'm just interested how you
I'll ring
market.
up the council.
You do it directly?
Yeah, and say, are you looking for stock? Yes, we are. We're very short. Blah blah blah. They want a discount, 10 or 15% discount. So, as we always say, the selling is in the buying. So if you buy at the right money, you can always offer a little bit of discount and get them gone in one big lump, which can save you lots and lots of interest, of course, as well. So very much so.
I mean, I'm just interested in the practicality of selling around the country when you're dealing in areas that you're not naturally familiar with. I think that's...
we take some advice and get on with it.
Yeah. Anything to add to that, Vincent?
Well, no, I'm just picking up on what we're saying about the Margaret Thatcher's rent offering right to buy.
And Labour, of course, if they get in, they're going to cancel that.
Yeah. So is that still happening?
Yeah, it's still happening. You can still get discounts aren't as big as they were, but you can still get discounts to buy your own council home. And of course, originally Margaret Thatcher's idea was anyone who bought their own home was far more likely to vote Tory than they were Labour. And that's what it was all about, being quite cynical about it.
So it's all political.
It's all political, all political. And Labour is saying as soon as we get in, we're going to stop it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, on that political note,
as always,
as always, I'm going to say a big thank you to John Howard, property developer, author, mentor, and investor. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
And Vincent Wong, entrepreneur, founder of Property Wealth Dragons Group PLC. Thank you for coming in.
Pleasure is all mine.
Always great answers, great help for our viewers. Thank you very much.
Good fun to work with Vincent.
Of course, without saying. I'm Stephen Galpin. Join me next time on Property Question Time. I look forward to seeing you then.